Hello. Since this blog and my articles and videos therein have appeared to be mostly about Colts thus far, I thought I'd take a moment to do one about Smith & Wessons, which they are a classic gun too. This is not chiefly a Colt blog, it's a classic guns blog, which would include these. This is a Smith & Wesson Model 15 made from 1971. And it's a fine weapon. I picked it up many years ago. It was produced it started production in 1949, and is an offshoot of the Smith & Wesson Model 10, which is a fixed sight gun. It doesn't have these, in other words. This is an adjustable sight gun that has adjustable rear sights and a bottom and front sight. It makes it a little easier for the average shooter on the eye, as you can see here. Easier to line up, and it's adjustable for the bullet you're trying to use, whether it's a lighter bullet or a jacketed bullet. And I think that became more common in the 70s as they lightened up some of the 38 special rounds. Originally, 38 special was designed for the 158 grain lead bullet. Well, that changed around the 1970s as they tried to broaden options for the weapon, with the advent of hollow point bullets and jacketed hollow point bullets, which were beginning to gain traction in the 70s and 80s. But anyway, this is a fine weapon. It's an excellent gun for a beginner. Because it has adjustable sights, it's easier for the average shooter to use. It shoots a 38 special round, which is a decent round for the average person to use, and as a wide variety of ammunition to use. It's durable. It's great for carrying in the woods or on your vehicle, or just a shooter, just a target gun. And this gun, as you can see, has a lot of wear. It's I've seen a lot of use in the holster, and the grips are very worn too. I can tell it's been in somebody's hand quite a bit, and I can certainly understand why, handling it myself. And it's if these, in a way, these wear points are actually kind of a plus for a prospective buyer. And the reason that is, in my opinion, is that it can cut down on the value. Remember, this is a classic gun site for people looking for, usable guns. This is not for people looking for safe sitters and museum pieces. This is a classic gun. And things like this, holster wear and a little bit of cylinder shake, it's not too bad. Every time every time the trigger is pulled on this gun, it goes bang. So that's what you want. And this can bring the collector's value down and make it an excellent usable gun and very inexpensive. And another thing I'll say is this is an original Smith & Wesson, the classic Smith & Wesson, or as most gun enthusiasts would probably agree, a pre-1990 and pre-lock Smith & Wesson. It doesn't have the modern Bill Clinton era lock that was installed after the Clinton years. It was pretty offensive to have a safety lock put in on a revolver. A revolver is supposed to be a simple functioning weapon that anybody can just pick up and use and not have to worry about locks or safeties or pulling on slides or whatever. And also, the action on these guns, just because they're old, doesn't mean they're no good. In fact, I would say these are better than the average gun, the average Taurus, the average Rossi, the average modern Smith & Wesson, or even the average modern Ruger that you find under the glass at Academy or Bass Pro Shop that's brand new out of the box. Those guns, you'll find you pick them up, and they're often so hard to pull the trigger. Clunk, clunk, clunk. Well, not this. This just easy, very easy to use. And this screw is the action on these guns is a little bit adjustable, just with a screwdriver. You just stick it into the screw and back it out a little bit, and it'll lighten the trigger. You don't want to do it too much because it'll lighten the hammer strike too much and give you misfires, and you won't be able to shoot it. But usually on these guns, you don't need to do anything. They're just fine as is. Just excellent weapons. And another little thing I'd like to mention is when you're in the market for a used gun, as one friend recently put it to me, teaching a concealed handgun license class, don't buy a used gun out of the trunk of somebody's car. Make sure it's at a gun show or a sporting goods store with a used gun section, or just something that's reputable. You don't want to buy a stolen gun and then have the police knocking on your door one day saying, "Where did you get this?" and probably lose your gun, if not get asked a few questions about a murder investigation. Lord forbid. But anyway, but when you're walking around the gun show tables and you spot something like this that catches your eye, and as I've already said and already explained, don't just pass it up. I mean, this might be just what you need. The things to look for in a used gun are cylinder end shake. This has just a little bit, not much. I can barely feel it. But like I said, it'll go bang every time you pull the trigger. Another thing to look for is timing. And the way you do that, and this is true of Colts and Smith & Wessons, cock the hammer very slowly. And once that hammer locks back like that, the bolt, I've talked about the bolt before in other videos, that should be solidly in place inside these notches. It should be tight, no wiggle room, almost no wiggle room except for where the bolt is inside the notch. If, however, and I'll see if I can't make it happen, I'll hold the cylinder back somewhat so you can see what would happen otherwise. Let's see. Did you see that? It just kind of clicked. It didn't quite make it all the way because I was holding back in my hand. But if you're doing this slowly, and it does not quite make it all the way to the notch, that's a timing problem. And you want to do it on all 6 chambers. That's good. Very slow. By the way, if it does have a timing problem, that doesn't necessarily mean you don't want to buy the gun. In fact, that can help you a little on the price, because what you'll have to do is you'll have to take it to a competent gunsmith. And please pay attention to what I've said in previous videos about Colts in regard to that, or even these. Best place to start is with the factory, which isn't a big deal. They can repair something like this. A good professional gunsmith, whether it's from the factory or otherwise, can repair a problem like this very easy. And what's happening if the timing is off, if it's not quite making it to these notches, is, I don't know if you can see it here, but this little piece here, I'll try to wiggle it right there. That's called the hand or the paw. I've mentioned that before in my Colt disassembly video. That's lifting and spinning the cylinder on these little notches here. And if it's got too much wear on it, it'll wear or dull it or shorten it over time. And it needs to be stretched or replaced. It's a minor maintenance fix, no big deal, and it'll only happen after a million rounds or so, which probably won't be something you have to worry about ever again unless you're just downright brutal with a gun. Another little thing you want to check for is the force cone, and this is especially true if the gun is a .357 Magnum, but you never know. In a used gun, some crazy idiot might have been shooting hot hand loads in a gun like this, which you're probably not supposed to do. But anyway, check the force. This is the force cone. The mouth here, that's in between. That's where the round goes in between the cylinder and the barrel. Make sure this isn't cracked anywhere from corrosion or shooting too hot loads or whatever. If it's fine, you're good. But if there's a crack there, I would probably pass it up, because that means you're probably going to have to replace the barrel, and that's not something you probably want to mess with, unless you got an interest in it, or have the time and the money. But another thing you'll want to look at is the bore. Look down the bore. Now, of course, make sure the gun's unloaded. Duh. It should be obvious. Look down the bore. And what you'll do, if you don't have a flashlight or a iPhone light, which most people do now, this is how I was taught to do it. Just take your thumbnail, stick it under here, and angle your thumbnail towards the light, and you'll be able to see down the bore. And it should look like a mirror. Now, if the gun's been fired, and it means the current owner or previous owner has fired it and it's never been cleaned, it may be a little dirty, and that's to be expected. And having said that, you might bring along a bore snake, and that's a long cloth with bristles on it with a string that you pull through. It's very easy to use, and just bring that along if you're looking to buy a gun at a gun show or a gun store. If the current owner allows it, he may be okay with it. Some people are a little funny about you handling their guns, but anyway, look down the bore and check the rifling. It should be real smooth, no pitting. If there is a little pitting, it may not be a big deal, but if nothing else, I think that would help me on the price. But if the pitting looked kind of bad, that is, pitting is rust places that are visible inside the barrel. It might give me cause to pass on it, but it certainly would help me on the price. It's not necessarily going to affect the accuracy of the gun. I have a few revolvers that are old and have some pitting and are excellent. But let me see if I can show you this on the video. I think this will work. But let's see. There it goes. See that? See the twist in the rifling on the walls? Looks pretty good, doesn't it? That's what you see James Bond through in the beginning of every James Bond movie, where he turns and fires and it gets all bloody. That's the rifling. A lot of people think it's a gun sight or a scope, but that's rifling. And that's how it should look, real clean and smooth. So that's what it is. Those are things to look for. Now, maybe there's some other things that I haven't mentioned here, but those are things I think of when I'm in the market for a used gun. And I hope this video has been helpful to you. And it applies to any guns. Other good prospective Smith & Wessons of the same type that are built on the K-frame, that's the size of the gun, are the Smith & Wesson Model 10, which is doesn't have the adjustable sides. They can be either a skinny tapered barrel or a bull barrel. And another one is the Smith & Wesson Model 19. That's a .357 Magnum, otherwise known as the Combat Magnum. This used to be known as the Combat Masterpiece, and until 1957 when Smith & Wesson started giving these model numbers, the Model 15, the Model 19. And a lot of people still call them the Combat Masterpiece and the Combat Magnum interchangeably with their model numbers. But anyway, what else? There's the Smith & Wesson Model 19. That's the Smith & Wesson Model 19 typically has larger target grips here with a half underlug covering the ejector rod and a full bull barrel, heavier bull barrel, and it shoots .357 Magnums. Another little thing I'd like to mention before I stop is if you don't find these grips too attractive, you hold the gun and not quite for my hand. I mean, you can get other grips for it. These are target grips, and sometimes you find these with target grips already on them. And I change them off this gun all the time, back and forth, depending on what I'm doing. As you can see, I have pretty large hands. And you can use hoe grips or Patchmeyer grips, rubber grips, whatever. This is pretty, changeable. You can do whatever you want with this. You can change grips all you want with whatever you want. So that's pretty adjustable. And it's an excellent shooter. I hope I've helped you in this, and looking for your used gun, maybe your first gun, or just adding to your collection. Thank you for watching. If you have any commentary, please do so, and keep language civil. Thank you for watching.